Hello again. Some little while ago, I produced on YouTube a video to do with Die neuen Ideen im Schachspiel, The New Ideas in Chess, a 1922 edition by Richard Ryti, to do with hypermodern chess and its development at the time. And I was recently looking online and I discovered some comments to do with the game Lasker Capablanca, World Chess Championship 1921 10th game, which Lasker lost. And in this book, Ryti pointed out an analysis by Julius Breyer. This is the game here, Die 10th Partie, the 10th game. And what I noticed in the comments online is that there's a suggestion that Julius Breyer's analysis is not correct. The computer disagrees with him, that in fact there is no advantage to Lasker on the basis of Breyer's analysis. So I thought I'd come back to this and have a really good look at it to see what I could make of it. Well, as can be seen here, these are the first 16 moves of this game. And as we move over to here, just concentrate on this page here. Just there. It's this part here. Just let me read out to you what Ryti is saying. In this position, Lasker continued with bishop takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop takes e7, knight takes e7. Capablanca now had a small advantage in view of the isolated pawn d4 and won through his superior technique. As Breyer has shown, Lasker could instead have a forced advantage. This combination was overlooked by the two world champions as well as by all other analysts. The reason is to be found in the incorrect older chess technique. Since the opening move of the winning combination is 17 bishop takes f6, 2 exclamation marks, losing a tempo and developing black, it was almost an impossibility for a chess player used to thinking in the old principles to discover this combination. Now what Breyer, of course, is alluding to here is the vast difference between the classical style and the hypermodern. So what he's as good as saying is that Breyer found this because he was a hypermodern and Lasker and Capablanca didn't find it because they weren't hypermoderns, and nor did any of the other analysts who also weren't hypermoderns. So let's just have a look at Breyer's analysis here. Now, what he gives at move 17 is LH4 takes f6, which is bishop takes f6. So let's just move over to the position. This is the position here after black's 16th move, knight on b6 to d5. So Capablanca has just moved here. Now what is interesting also to note is that Capablanca made many would call a sweeping statement that at no stage during that 1921 World Chess Championship did he have an inferior position. Now Breyer is contesting this, but players in recent years seem to be going along with the computer. Well, computers are not perfect because I've already mentioned this on a previous video that Stockfish failed to find a move that I found. And there were 5 moves that followed in the combination. I found them all. And when Stockfish was shown the move, it too found the next 5 moves. So what this points to is that if I can beat Stockfish, then who knows what can be done. It can't necessarily be guaranteed that simply because the machine is saying that it's so, that it is so. So let's have a look at this analysis from well over 100 years ago. And what Breyer is saying is that Lasker, in fact, as I already mentioned when I translated it from the German to the English, is that he took the knight here. Capablanca took back, the bishop took the bishop here, and then this knight took back here. And Capablanca eventually won, as Riti pointed out, through his superior technique. Now, what Breyer is suggesting, if you just move back here for a moment, is that it should have been bishop takes f6, which on our board here is, we take this off here. So we're taking that knight rather than this knight. Now, what Riti points out here, according to Breyer's analysis, is that the next move is going to be the best move, bishop takes f6. And players in recent time on computer agree with that. What Breyer pointed out is that should the knight take the bishop, then this knight swings into here. We'll just have a quick look at this. So that's knight f6, white plays knight g6. And what's clear to be seen from this is that white's knight is attacking the rook. And should black take it, the bishop sweeps in with check and it becomes highly dangerous, hitting that rook. Should the rook move to e8, then its rook here takes e6. You can check out this analysis if you want, by all means, but I've looked at it and I would agree that knight taking on f6 is not correct. So what we'll do is we'll whip the bishop off with the bishop. So it's bishop takes f6. So Riti has a point that it is aiding black's development there. There's no doubt about that. Now, Breyer suggests it is correct to take this knight. Just to verify it, LB takes d5, bishop takes d5, and the pawn recaptures, which it's forced to do. So we just put that like that. Right, so far white has played bishop takes f6, black has replied bishop takes f6. White has played then on move 18, bishop takes d5, and black has responded e takes d5. Now, some commentators nowadays are suggesting that queen f5 is the move here, but Cecil Purdy apparently jumped in on this one some years ago and agreed with Breyer that knight g4 is the correct move, hitting the bishop. And there it is. Springer e5 to g4, knight to g4. Now, the reply that Breyer gives with an exclamation mark to this is bishop to here. What Breyer is also pointing out through Riti as his mouthpiece is that should this bishop not have moved here, should it instead, it can't move here because the rook would take it. If it moved to here, it would still be the same reply. The reply in question now is queen f5. So Breyer reckons knight g4 first, and only when the bishop has moved. No, let me just take that back. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Forgive me. So after bishop g5, there's a pawn sacrifice. f2, f4. So let's do that first. We haven't moved the queen. Right. So that's there. So what does black do there? Well, he accepts the pawn. And now it's queen f5. There we are, f2, f4. bishop takes f4, Dame f5, queen to f5, and then Breyer recommends retreating the bishop to c7. So this is what he's recommending here. Now, there's a very good reason for retreating it to that particular square, and that is because it covers the queen. Now, I notice online that many are saying that Breyer does not mention this move, putting the bishop back from whence it came. Well, I'm afraid I would have to disagree with them, because as can be seen here in this line, and it's any other bishop move, queen takes d5. Now, by any other bishop move, you would certainly say that bishop to g5 meets that criteria. So they are wrong, and there it is in print from over 100 years ago. As you can see. Now, in retreating this bishop back here, just take it to c7 for a moment. Let's just have a look at what would happen. And there's the conclusion to it, up there. Right, so we'll play this out. Black has retreated the bishop, like I say, to cover the queen. So we're not going to play queen d5 here, and we'll explain why that is so in just a moment. What instead, in the instance of black having played bishop c7, white plays knight takes d5. Now, Breyer recommends here moving the king because, of course, the knight is threatening to fork the king and rook. So the king gets out the way to h8. It can't go to h7 because of the white queen. However, white plays here. There's not much else that black can do other than take it, because f7 was looming. And then the knight goes in like that, and white is threatening checkmate on h7. So what does black do there? Well, he moves his king, recognizing that should white put his queen on h7, he can take the knight. So how does Breyer finish this off? Well, he plays here, knight to h5. Just take a look at that for a moment. Check. And like Breyer is saying here, Nebsmat is Weisigen, mate in 2 moves. Is it? Well, where does the king go? Well, if it goes to here, well then you can give check there, can't you? And if it goes here or here, it makes no odds. It's mate in 2 moves. So he's absolutely right on that. So let's put this position back as it was at the beginning, and then I'll come to what they've been talking about online. And we'll have to turn back one page to see Breyer's analysis, and you'll be the judge as to whether he's right or he's wrong. Right, that is the position after black's 16th move, knight on b to d5. So Breyer's move, and the reply, take it, the reply, knight to here, bishop to here, get it right this time, yep, f4, not queen f5 first, f4, sack the pawn. The idea of all of this is so that when white puts his queen on f5, the bishop will have to move. Now, I did say before that the bishop has to go here to cover the queen. They're saying online that Breyer didn't see this. Well, we've seen that he did. Any other bishop move, not knight takes here, but queen takes here. Let's just go back and have a look at it for a moment. Here we go. Any other bishop follows d takes d5, queen takes d5, a6, why a6 there? Because this bishop is pinned. If it moves, black loses his queen. And this bishop now, with the queen having taken on d5, is attacked twice. That's why a6. Now, up to this point, this is computer analysis, agrees that that is the correct sequence. But then what it goes on to say is white plays here, pawn grabbing, and black plays here, and it gives this an equal position. Right, so let's just put this back to there, and don't take that pawn. And let's just move back here. a6, a4. So after 22, queen takes d5, a6. Breyer is recommending a4. Let's have a look at a4. Okay, as can be seen here, that's threatening to win the bishop. Now, it doesn't mention a4 on the internet. So how does black respond to that? Well, what he has to do is he needs to drive that queen away from the fifth rank so that the bishop is no longer pinned. Imagine just for a moment, just for argument's sake, the queen were here. Well, then the bishop would be free to move, wouldn't it? Because it's no longer pinned. So if black can drive this queen away from the fifth rank, then he's out the woods. Now, how does he do that? Well, I looked at this for a while, and initially I looked at rook on f to d8, thinking that we need to cover the c line. We'll cover this, and then we'll advance these pawns, and we'll put a stop to that, and then the bishop will be able to move. Well, in fact, what is more correct is to move this. Now, again, this is not classical thinking, it's hypermodern thinking, because you are losing a tempo here, because you're thinking, well, the queen can move to the c file. Yeah, but that's what black wants white to do. And I'll demonstrate in a moment. We won't move to the c file straight away. What we'll do instead is we'll move here. Now, how does black continue now? Well, he moves here. Attempting to drive the queen away. So the queen can't go back to d5 because of the rook. It doesn't want to go to c5, believe me, at the moment. So it moves here. Now, if black were to move here, white would win this game easily because he can give check. And when the king moves or the rook interposes, he just takes the bishop and he's a piece up. So he can't afford to move that second pawn. So what does he do instead? Well, he moves the rook. Now what does white do? Now white is forced really to go on the c line. He's forced to go into this c5 square, isn't he? I mean, taking the rook would be no good at all, for the simple reason that it's backed up by this, and then of course the bishop is free to take it. So it's at this point that he moves here. So now, why has black wanted white to move to the C line? Clearly, if he moved the rook back, the queen would just go to d5 and it would be repetition, and that would be a draw. It's because of this, b6. Now that pawn is covered by the black queen. So where does the queen go now? Because as soon as the queen moves off this fifth rank, the bishop is free to move. So where does it go? Just take a good look at that. This is the crucial point as to whether Breyer's right or not. Well, what it does is it doesn't move the queen, it takes the rook with check. Now then. Now this is an admission that we can't win the bishop here. Just put it back for a moment. See, hitting the queen with this pawn wouldn't really achieve much because white's losing his, and then white's doubling his own pawns by taking it, and then the bishop is free to move. Should the queen move, like I say, it's going to have to go off the fifth, so it could come somewhere like this, but then the bishop would be free to move. Something like this. And that's no problem. I mean, this queen eventually could come over here somewhere. So we're not really getting where we want to be. We wanted to trap that bishop, and we can't do it. So really, I think that the correct move there is to take the rook with check. That's gaining a tempo. So you can have your queen en prise there. It doesn't matter. So if the rook takes it, what happens? Well, clearly, if the bishop takes it, we take the queen. So let's just have a look at taking it with the rook. What happens then? Well, then you can move here. But the problem is, you see, the bishop can move now, can't it? It can move. Where can it go? Can it really move anywhere? It can't move to here or here because it will be taken. And it will be taken here or here or here by the knight, or here by the king. Mind you, the rook would cover it, so that would get it out of the woods. So that would be acceptable. And then, of course, the queen would take, and black would take back, and then you'd have to move this rook. I think that this would be a mistake, though, for the simple reason that eventually this rook could go here, pinning the bishop against the rook. I think that will be the problem with that variation. Once the queens are off, the rook can simply go there, and the knight's attacking it and the rook's attacking it. So I think the correct sequence here so just to put it back how we had it, instead of playing rook takes e8, I think bishop takes e8 is the correct move, and then there's no risk of pinning it. So then I think we're left with no option but to exchange queens. So we agree that that's definitely a winning position if the rook were to take there. And those are the best moves on both sides. So now it's white's choice to respond to bishop takes e8. How does he do it? Well, I think he takes the queen like that, and black is forced to take back. And let's just have a look at that position. We're even in material, but look at black's doubled pawns. Connected pawns, doubled pawns. This is an isolated pawn admittedly, but it's a pass pawn as well. Now, what must be noted here is that open positions favour bishops, and this is an open position, and black has the two bishops to white's two knights. However, I think that most people would agree that there are possibilities there for white to maybe win this game. I wouldn't mind playing white here. I'm not saying that it's necessarily a one game, but I'd say that there's a slight positional advantage for white here, given this problem here. And especially if white can bring his king into the centre, which he shouldn't have any trouble doing, and work this knight through somehow or other. For instance, this knight probably could link up with this one. It's an interesting position that would require analysis, and maybe anybody out there might care to put that through the computer and gauge how it feels that position is, and whether there is any advantage to white or whether it is an equal position. But I still think this is a weakness here. There's no doubt about that. So that is the end of this analysis by Breyer, and I think he is substantiated on the basis of what I've gone through here. I don't agree with the computer myself. Even allowing for the two bishops and that, I think that white probably stands slightly better here. And so therefore Capablanca's claim that at no time did he have an inferior position, in my humble opinion, is not correct. I think he did have an inferior position. I think Breyer has demonstrated it. Breyer didn't go anywhere near as far as he should have in this line, in my opinion. He stopped at a4. I think he should have done some further analysis, because that would have been very interesting, but I don't think he would have come up with anything different to this. This looks to me, unless anyone can see anything better, let me know if you can. I think that's about it. I hope you've enjoyed this video as I have in presenting it, because it's always interesting when you've done something like I said. I did the video on Riti's book, and when I saw that online, I thought I'm going to check this one out thoroughly, and I did, and now I presented this. So good luck to anyone out there, especially all hyper moderns, because I think it's better than classical, to be perfectly honest. And goodbye for now.